In the heart of the Andari Nebula, a soft pulse blinked on the control panel of an alien listening station. Lieutenant Varric of the Kelnari Republic leaned closer, confused by the human signal coming through. It was calm, not a distress call. Not a trade beacon, just a steady message repeating on every open channel. The alien crew gathered around, watching as the strange human voice echoed through the speakers. It said, "To the Galactic Union, this is Earth. You rejected peace. This is your final warning." Then the voice stopped, and the screen went black. A heavy silence filled the room. At first, they laughed. Humans were emotional creatures, always dramatic, always loud. They thought the message was just a bluff, an angry outburst from a minor planet. But far from the laughter of the aliens, deep below the red sands of Mars, something ancient stirred, Captain. Dana Brooks stood inside Command Bunker 12. Her boots clipped on the metal floor as she walked toward the holotable. The lights were low, screens flickered with incoming data. Her eyes, calm but cold, scanned the coded message that just arrived from Earth High Command. It was short and clear. Final protocol, message echo authorized. Her breath slowed. Around her, the other officers grew quiet. Commander Neil Carter, her second in command, nodded once without speaking. They all knew what this meant. They had hoped it would never be needed, but peace was truly broken, above the surface. Ships started launching from hidden silos on Mars. And Luna. Black warships without names, without flags, they moved like shadows. Silent and fast, not meant to be seen. These were not peacekeepers. These were instruments of final judgment. Back on Earth, the council building was silent. No debates, no press. Only a quiet room filled with old men and women watching the stars. One of them, Chairman Lewis Gray, whispered to no one in particular. "We offered them peace, we warned. Them, they mocked our efforts," his voice cracked. "So now they will learn." Alien networks began reporting the strange human transmission. Civilizations across the stars debated if it was real or a hoax. Some claimed Earth was bluffing. Others remembered the Terran silence, the time when Earth went dark for 10 years and returned with ships no one could scan. The Druvari Empire sent a probe to the edge of the Sol system. It vanished in less than a minute. No signal, no debris, just gone. The Council of the Galactic Union laughed it off. But deep down, fear began to grow. Meanwhile, on board the stealth carrier Solace, hidden beyond Jupiter's shadow, Commander Neil Carter watched the stars through reinforced glass. His crew was ready, trained for years in secret. He whispered the lines from the message again. "You rejected peace." Every officer on the Solace had lost someone, a brother, a child, a home. They had pushed for peace with the alien powers, offered technology, trade, protection. But humanity was always met with rejection. Insult, or worse, silence. In the quiet of space, the Solace moved with a fleet of ghost ships. Each one dark and prepared. Their weapons were not just missiles or lasers, but things unknown to the rest of the galaxy: quantum snares, gravitational fractures, pulse voids. The first destination was the Crimson Gate, the galaxy's main wormhole hub. It connected the rich center worlds with the outer systems, destroying. It would mean cutting off communication, trade, and support. It would also send a message clearer than words. Captain Brooks looked at the countdown screen. 5 days until the first strike. 5 days until silence would turn into fury. Her crew trained every minute, preparing their minds and bodies. No cheers, no loud speeches, only quiet focus. On the other side of the galaxy, alien leaders held emergency meetings. The human message had made them nervous. Some believed Earth was bluffing, others demanded action. Still, no one dared to strike first. That was their mistake back on Earth, in a small home near the coast. An old woman named Ellen sat on her porch, watching the ocean. Her son had served in the Earth Peace Corps. He died trying to save alien children during a plague on a border world. They had called him a monster, burned his body, and sent back his dog tags in a box. She held them now, fingers shaking. She whispered softly, "Let them see now." The message continued to play on every channel, in every language known to aliens. On repeat, never changing, never stopping, you rejected. Peace. This is your final warning. Some aliens turned off their screens, others covered their ears. But the message remained. It was not a threat, it was a promise. And in the cold of space, where no words were needed, the human ships moved. The stars over the colony world of Trelos V burned bright and calm. But inside the alien control center, alarms screamed across every deck. A signal had entered their system. Clean, powerful, and undeniably human. It did not come in with weapons, but with something far worse, a warning. To those who rejected peace, the voice said, "Prepare yourselves." Then silence followed. Commander Thalos of the Trellin Guard barked orders in panic. He told his crew to jam the transmission, to block it, erase it, but it was too late. The signal had already reached millions, broadcasted through ships, satellites, and even private devices. It was not just a voice, it was a code, designed to spread like wildfire. On the stealth carrier Solace, Neil Carter received the update. The message had been successful. He looked at his crew, their eyes steady, ready for what came next. Operation Message Echo had moved to its second phase. The fleet began to awaken. From moons and asteroid belts, black ships started to rise. They had no names, only numbers. They were not built for defense. They were built for reply. The Solace moved ahead, silently, hidden in the shadows of gas giants. It was not the biggest ship in the fleet, but it was the eyes and ears of the operation. Carter's voice echoed through the command deck. "All ships, hold position. Do not engage unless fired upon." Captain Dana Brooke stood aboard the dreadnought Ironheart. Larger and older than most ships, her fingers brushed against the controls. Remembering when this ship was decommissioned, hidden away, now it rose again with a new purpose. The galaxy had forgotten Earth's strength, but they were about to be reminded. Alien news networks began to panic. One station showed grainy footage of a human ship near the border of Kelnari space. It moved without sound, without lights. Then it disappeared again. Some claimed it was fake. Others warned their leaders. Still, no official reply came from Earth. Only the same message played again and again. You rejected peace. The Galactic Union held emergency meetings. Some worlds demanded a preemptive strike on Earth. Others wanted to open talks again. A few whispered of retreat, of surrender, but none of them moved fast enough. On the far edge of Union space, a fleet of 30 human ships appeared from the shadows. They didn't fire, didn't speak, just drifted silently in formation. They were spotted by merchant vessels, who sent warnings before cutting engines and fleeing. One trader described the human ships as ghosts with teeth. Back in the Solace, Commander Carter reviewed the enemy positions. He saw weakness, not in their weapons, but in their overconfidence. "They laughed at our silence," he said quietly. "Let them feel what fills the silence now." Every ship in the human fleet carried weapons that had never been tested in open war. Technologies Earth developed during the silent years, when contact with the galaxy was cut off. Now these tools waited for a command, a signal, one single word. Brooke stood in the war room aboard the Ironheart. Her team displayed alien fleet formations on the holomap. The Crimson Gate sat in the center, glowing with energy. It was the target of Phase 3. It connected 6 major systems of the Union. If it fell, their unity would collapse. But before any action was taken, Earth needed to be sure the message had been heard. So far, no one had responded. No apology, no talks, just silence and fear. In a secure chamber below Earth's surface, the Earth Council watched alien broadcasts. Chairman Louis Gray sipped his tea, eyes fixed on the screen. "They still don't understand," he said softly. "They think this is war, but it is not." Beside him, a young strategist named Clara Monroe whispered, "Then what is it, sir?" He looked at her, his voice steady. "It's the closing of a door." Meanwhile, far from Earth, alien civilizations began evacuating border worlds. They moved civilians away from potential strike zones, hoping to avoid what they now feared was coming. Some leaders tried to hide it, but their people knew. The message was not a threat, it was a promise. At the edge of the Andari belt, the ship Starflame tried to send a message to the Solace. Its crew begged for peace, begged to talk, but Earth had already decided. The window had closed. No messages were accepted, only the looped voice replied. Commander Carter stared at the blinking signal from the Starflame. They had their chance, he said, and ordered the CUM shut down, inside the ship's hangars. Engineers armed the final weapon systems. Soldiers in black armor stood silently, checking their gear. No battle cries, no chants, just purpose. They had waited for this moment. They had trained in silence, they moved with focus. The alien leaders still hesitated, hoping to buy time, but time was Earth's weapon now. The longer they waited, the more fleets Earth moved into position. Aboard the dreadnought Tempest, Captain Elijah Moore gave one final order to his ship. "Stay dark," he said. "Let them see nothing until the flame reaches them." The stars watched in silence as humanity prepared to speak without words. The Oort cloud had always been silent, a frozen graveyard beyond the edge of known space. But now shapes moved within the shadows, dark, massive, and quiet. They did not shine, they did not speak. They drifted like ancient monsters waking from a deep sleep. They were the ghost ships, forgotten by history, built in secret long ago when Earth was alone and silent. Each ship had no beacon, no registry, not even a known design. They were nothing like the sleek alien cruisers or colorful merchant vessels. These ships looked like they were built for only one thing: war. The first to emerge was the dreadnought named Tempest. It was black with scars from battles no one remembered. Its hull was shaped to scatter scanners, its engines silent but fast. Captain Elijah Moore stood on the bridge, staring at the long list of objectives scrolling across the screen. He had waited years for this moment. His crew moved with quiet precision. They wore dark uniforms with no symbols, no flags, only purpose. Around them, other ghost ships joined the formation. Each one carried new weapons developed during the Terran silence. Weapons that no alien civilization had seen before. Quantum disruptors, energy shatter missiles, kinetic spears, all loaded and ready. And deep inside each ship was something else. A command protocol that no one spoke of, a final step if everything else failed. It was known only as Black Ember. The fleet spread wide across the outer systems, waiting in the dark, not for orders, but for a signal. The same signal that had been sent before, now echoing across every channel in the galaxy. You rejected peace. Meanwhile, on the alien world of Narshal, a science station picked up strange energy readings from the Oort edge. The scientists could not explain the patterns, and when they tried to investigate, their probes vanished, one after another. They sent a final message to their government before going silent themselves. At the Galactic Union headquarters, panic began to grow. Reports came in from different sectors. Stories of human ships appearing and disappearing, of probes destroyed, of strange signals and dark shapes. Still, no response came from Earth. Only the message continued. Captain Moore watched the stars from the command deck. His first officer, a quiet man named Daniel Ross, stood beside him. "They are scared now," Ross said. "But they still don't understand." Moore nodded slowly. "They will." On board the stealth frigate Whisper, Lieutenant Nora Green monitored alien communications. She smiled as she listened to the confusion, the fear, the desperate attempts to contact Earth. "They waited too long," she said softly. "Now it's our turn." The Whisper had traveled far from Earth, mapping weak points and alien defense lines. It carried no heavy weapons, but its scanners and stealth tech were unmatched. Nora's job was to mark targets for the main fleet. She had already marked 12, above the gas giant Veltrix, the Iron Heart uncloaked for 3 seconds to reposition. Alien satellites caught only a blurry image before the ship vanished again. It was enough to cause mass panic in the nearby systems. Merchant ships turned away. Patrols doubled. But nothing stopped the cold feeling of being watched. Captain Dana Brooks studied the enemy formations around the Crimson Gate. Their ships were fast and modern, full of bright color and smooth design. But she saw their weakness. They were built for defense. For protocol, not for fury, not for Earth. The final wave of ships began to awaken now, deep in the moons of Saturn. These were the ones no one knew existed. Not even most of Earth's own people. They were shaped like broken swords, all edges. And shadows controlled by AI systems and old soldiers who had no homes left. Each ship carried a final gift, something developed in the labs beneath Antarctica during Earth's isolation. The aliens called Earth primitive, but they never saw what Earth hid in its silence. On the bridge of the Tempest, a soft chime rang through the room. The signal had come. It was time. Captain Moore straightened his uniform and looked at his crew. "Begin movement," he said calmly. "Target Crimson Gate. Keep silent, keep cold, keep watching." The ships began to move slowly, like predators circling prey. The galaxy still didn't know they were coming. Not really. They saw flickers, shadows, ghosts. But they didn't understand what those ghosts carried. Back in the Union headquarters, an emergency session was called. Some leaders demanded a strike. On Earth, others shouted for retreat. A few tried to call for surrender. But the vote failed as always. No one could agree, and time was running out on board the Solace. Commander Neil Carter watched the council broadcast through a secure link. "They talk too much," he said. "They always talk too much." The message continued to play across all channels. Simple, slow, and final. "You rejected peace," Earth had spoken. Not with weapons yet, but with movement, with silence, with the gathering of ships forgotten by history. In the dark of space, the stars shivered, and the ghost fleet moved closer. The Crimson Gate was the heart of the Galactic Union's travel network. It connected 6 powerful systems, each rich in resources. Each system had fleets, stations, and trade routes that kept the Union strong. The gate itself was guarded by 5 battle platforms and over 70 patrol ships. No one had ever attacked the gate before. Not even the wild space raiders dared to come close. It was believed to be unbreakable, a symbol of power and order. But now, the shadows of Earth's fleet circled near on board the Iron Heart. Captain Dana Brooks watched the Crimson Gate through the wide screen. The alien ships patrolled lazily. Their movements were slow, relaxed, confident. They still didn't know what was coming. The Iron Heart sent no signal, used no light. Even the engine hum was nearly silent. It moved with patience. Along with 15 other human warships in formation, they spread like fingers around the gate, closing in. Captain Elijah Moore, aboard the Tempest, gave a silent nod to his crew. The time had come. He pressed his finger on a control button, and across the fleet, power flowed into weapons that had never before been used in open space. The Whisper marked the final targets, its scanners mapping the enemy shield grids and weaknesses, Lieutenant. Nora Green sent the signal, and the first shot was fired. A spear of white energy came from the ship called Night Wind. It struck one of the main power towers beside the gate. The tower exploded in silence. A bright flash, and then debris. 1 of the 5 battle platforms lost power instantly. Before the aliens could respond, the second wave of human weapons launched. From the Tempest and Iron Heart came kinetic rods-long metal spears traveling at near light speed. They smashed into 2 more stations, tearing them in half before alarms could fully ring. The alien forces began to move, but they were already confused. Human ships moved without standard patterns, their tech unreadable by alien sensors. It was like trying to fight ghosts. Commander Neil Carter, aboard the Solace, observed the enemy response. He smiled coldly. "They are still trying to understand what hit them," he said. One of the alien admirals, a proud leader named Kellic, shouted orders over the command channels. His fleet turned to attack the nearest human ship, the Dawn Hammer. But by the time they reached the coordinates, the ship had vanished, moved behind a moon fragment, and struck them from behind. Human ships didn't fight like aliens. They didn't use bright colors or loud power-ups. They were quiet, precise, deadly. They struck where it hurt most and vanished again. 3 alien destroyers tried to guard the center of the gate, but a black ship named Pale Silence flew straight through them. Its hull deflected blasts using wave shields developed in the dark labs of Europa. It unleashed a blast of plasma so powerful it broke the central gate ring. Crimson Gate flickered, its light dimming, its stability shaken. Panic spread across the alien defense lines. Inside the Iron Heart, Captain Brooks gave her final command. "Shut it down," she said. The weapon systems launched the last attack, a payload of pulse bombs that exploded not with fire, but with silence, silence that crushed engines, cracked metal, and froze electronics. The gate's core failed. A shockwave spread through space, not fiery and loud, but quiet. A wave of gravity that knocked ships off course and shattered the connection between systems. The Crimson Gate went dark. Its pieces floated like broken glass in the void. Across the galaxy, systems that depended on the gate suddenly found themselves isolated, trade halted, reinforcements cut off, panic rising. Some planets blacked out completely. Others screamed into open channels begging for help. But Earth did not reply. The message still played, looping again and again. "You rejected peace." Captain Elijah Moore turned off his screen and leaned back in his chair. "Objective complete," he said. "No losses." Commander Carter sent a message across the fleet. "Hold positions. No further strikes unless provoked." The galaxy trembled. The gate was not just a tool. It was a symbol. And Earth had shattered it without warning. Back at the Galactic Union Council, leaders screamed at each other. Some demanded immediate war. Others wanted to run. No one had answers. The galaxy had never seen such a strike fast. Clean, devastating, on one of the Council worlds. A young diplomat named Sillin tried to reach Earth's old embassy, but the building was closed, powered down. Only a single device remained inside a holoplayer repeating the same message. "You rejected peace." In the silence that followed the destruction of the gate, many alien people began to ask questions. Why did we refuse their peace? Why did we mock their silence? Why did we not listen? On Earth, the people did not celebrate. There were no fireworks, number songs, no proud speeches, only quiet moments, silent streets, and eyes watching the stars. In a dark corner of a human military base, Chairman Louis Gray sat alone, watching old recordings of peaceful talks with alien leaders, talks that were once full of hope, full of chances, but always ended in rejection. He whispered, "We gave them a chance." And out in the cold of space, human ships stood still, watching, waiting. The gate was gone, but the message had only just begun. The Council Station of the Galactic Union floated above the blue gas planet Serenes. It was once a place of peace, where leaders from every species met to speak, to solve problems. Now it was filled with fear, panic, and shouting voices. Inside the main chamber, tall windows showed the stars outside. Alien leaders argued, some shouting for war, others begging for surrender. They all felt the same fear. The Crimson Gate had fallen, their safe network was broken, and Earth still said nothing. No one knew what to do. One moment the gate was strong. The next it was gone, and the human ships vanished again into the black. Ambassador Sillin of the Athari stood to speak. He was calm, his hands shaking only a little. "We had many chances," he said. "We laughed at their warnings, we ignored their peace offers. Now they don't want talks, they want silence." But others did not agree. Commander Varil of the Varnok Empire slammed his fist on the table. "We strike Earth now," he shouted. "We gather every fleet, every ship, and we burn their homeworld." The council room grew quiet. Then someone whispered, "And if we miss?" No one had an answer. Earth's ships could vanish at will, strike from nowhere, and leave before being seen. How do you fight shadows meanwhile? Aboard a human infiltration ship named Ember Wing, Operative Troy Maddox moved through the shadows of the Council Station's outer deck. He was dressed in black armor, silent and fast. His mission was simple: send a message without speaking. He had studied the council station for years, knew every hallway, every camera. He placed 5 small charges along the support beams under the main chamber, not enough to destroy the station, just enough to wake the galaxy. As he placed the last charge, he whispered, "They had a chance." From his small ship hidden nearby, he sent the signal. The charges exploded inward, not out, cutting through the metal and splitting the station floor like paper. The blast did not echo, but the effect was terrifying. Half the council chamber opened to space, air rushed out, and those not wearing suits were pulled into the stars. The other half fell into flames, smoke rising into the dark. Troy escaped through a small tunnel he had built long ago. He climbed into the Ember Wing and disappeared before the first alien rescue ships arrived. The council station was now broken, its leaders gone or scattered. The heart of the Union had been ripped apart not by war, but by silence and shadows. The message played again on every surviving screen. You rejected peace. Alien news stations showed the wreckage. Survivors spoke in fear. No one claimed to know what had happened, but they all knew the truth. Back on Earth, the people remained calm. There were no cheers, no anger, just quiet waiting. In a small control room under the mountains, Clara Monroe watched the star maps update. She marked the council station as inactive and moved to the next target. Chairman Louis Gray entered the room and stood beside her. He looked at the screen, then said, "How many more must fall before they understand?" Clara said softly, "All of them, if needed." In alien cities, fear spread like fire. Many people began to protest against their own leaders. They blamed them for ignoring Earth, for mocking their offers of peace. They knew now Earth was not weak. Earth was patient. Some alien races sent new messages to Earth, begging for talks, begging for mercy. But Earth received them and replied with only silence and the repeating voice. You rejected peace. On board the Solace, Commander Neil Carter read the incoming transmissions. One by one, they were marked ignored. His crew did not smile, did not speak. They just worked. The fleet had no need for new weapons now. Fear had become their weapon. The galaxy was tearing itself apart without a single new strike. Captain Dana Brooks ordered all ships to hold. No more attacks for now. Let the silence do the rest. On a broken moon near the edge of Union space, a child picked up a data tablet that had survived the wreck of a station. She pressed the screen, and the voice spoke again, soft and slow. You rejected peace. Her mother took it from her hands and hugged her tight. Her people had once called humans animals. Now they prayed humans would not come to their world. Operative Troy Maddox returned to Earth and walked alone through the memorial park in the old city of Chicago. Statues of fallen peace envoys stood there, men and women who had tried to speak with aliens, only to be killed or shamed. He stood before one statue, touched the name engraved there, and whispered, "They remember now." And far above, in the black sea of stars, human ships remained still, waiting for the next call. The galaxy had been warned. The message had been delivered with fire, shadow, and silence. In the center of the Xanthari system, the star burned bright, lighting up 7 planets around it. One of those planets, Xanthari Prime, held the largest population in the Union. It was home to cities made of crystal, towers that touched the clouds, and fleets that filled the skies. But even there, under all the beauty and power, fear had begun to grow. News of the fallen Crimson Gate and the destroyed council station had reached every corner of the world. Leaders met in secret, people whispered in panic, and no one could sleep without hearing the message. You rejected peace. A warning from the edge of the stars. Repeated again and again, above the planet, alien fleets moved in circles. Their ships were fast, their weapons strong, but they had never faced what was coming. Far outside the system, hidden in the dark, Earth's answer waited. It was called Project Winter Sun, a weapon not made to destroy ships, but to end stars. Something built in silence by human hands during the years of exile. Something believed to be only theory, until now. A single ship carried the weapon. It was named Warden. Its hull was white like bone, shaped like a long blade, and moved without sound. The ship was controlled by a human pilot named Ava Daniels. Ava had trained for this mission her whole life. Her mother died in a failed peace mission to the Union. Her father had worked on Project Winter Sun, and she was the one chosen to carry it to the stars. Inside her ship, she checked the systems. Her voice was calm, steady. She spoke into her log. Zenthari system locked. Coordinates confirmed. Target is the star. No one on Zenthari Prime knew she was there. The Warden stayed outside all sensors, moving with tech unknown to the aliens. It waited for the final code from Earth. Back on Earth, Clara Monroe received the last report. The fleet was in place, the target clear. She sent the command with a single word. Proceed. Ava received the signal. She pressed her palm to the control plate. The core of the Warden began to glow. A deep hum filled the ship. Not loud, but powerful. The weapon inside her ship was not fire or metal. It was a field of collapse energy, built to crush a star's heart. One strike would not explode the star, but drain it, make it die, slowly and silently. She aimed the weapon, her fingers moving with care. Her voice was soft as she whispered, "For peace." The Warden fired a thin beam of blue light. It touched the star, and at first, nothing happened. The light vanished into the fire, as if swallowed, but then the star pulsed. Once, then again, and its light dimmed. In minutes, the star's color began to change, from bright gold to pale white, then to a sickly gray on Zenthari Prime. People looked up in confusion, wondering why the skies had dimmed. Within hours, the star started to collapse. Not with a bang, but a breath. Ships in orbit felt it first. Engines slowed, gravity shifted. Panic filled the comms as captains tried to understand. The star had begun to die, and nothing could stop it. Ava watched from far away. Her hands shook slightly, but she did not stop. "They will remember this," she said. "This is the price." On Zenthari Prime, the leaders tried to send messages, begging Earth to stop, promising to talk, to change, to listen. But the channels were empty. No voice answered. Just the same message played. "You rejected peace." As the light of the star faded, the cities grew cold. Systems began to fail. Orbiting stations broke away from their paths, and ships crashed into each other in the sky. The sun that had given them life now gave them fear. On the Warden, Ava turned the ship slowly, set in course for Earth. Her mission was complete. She whispered into her log, "One system dark." Returning to base, the Union sent scouts to follow her, but they found nothing. The ship had vanished like all the others, leaving behind only silence. Back on Earth, the people watched the change in the Zenthari system. They did not cheer, did not smile, only quiet faces behind screens, knowing what it cost. Chairman Gray stood before the council room and spoke to his people. "We warned them," he said. "We waited, we gave everything we could, and now they must understand." Clara Monroe nodded beside him. "The message has been sent with fire, shadow, and now with cold." Across the stars, alien worlds began to panic. They sent messages to each other, asking for help, begging for peace. But the galaxy had already received its reply. The light of Zenthari faded, leaving only a cold memory of what once was. And far in the dark, human ships moved again, silent as ghosts, watching, waiting, ready. The stars across the galaxy flickered with fear. From the great cities of the Union to the small colonies in distant space, one name was now spoken with. Silence Earth, the fall of the Crimson Gate, the attack on the Council Station, and the dying light of Zenthari had shaken every world. People no longer asked what happened, they asked what would happen next. Across many alien systems, citizens flooded the streets, holding signs for peace. Some shouted for their leaders to speak with Earth, to beg for mercy. Others simply cried, afraid of what the next day would bring. But Earth did not reply. No voice answered the calls, No diplomat came forward. Only the same message kept playing, soft and slow. You rejected peace. In the halls of the broken Union Council, only a few leaders remained. Their faces pale, their voices low. Some wanted to surrender fully, others still clung to pride. But no one could deny the truth anymore. Earth had shown its power not through numbers, but with precision. One gate, one station, one star. Each hit was clean, clear, and final. Ambassador Sillin stood before what remained of the council. His robes were torn, his face tired. "We never listened," he said. "We thought Earth was weak because they were quiet. We laughed at their offers now. We begged for their silence to end." But silence had become Earth's greatest weapon. It filled the space between stars, heavy and strong. It made enemies doubt. It made allies turn. Cold. Back on Earth, the people still lived in quiet cities. No celebrations, no news, no pride. They worked, they watched, they waited. In a schoolroom in New Denver, a teacher explained the situation to young students. Her voice was soft, her eyes sad. "We offered peace first," she said. "But sometimes, peace is not taken, and when that happens, we protect our home." In orbit above Saturn, the dreadnought Tempest drifted slowly. Captain Elijah Moore stood alone in the command room, watching the galaxy through the thick glass. He had led the strike on the Crimson Gate, and now he waited. His crew was still on alert, weapons ready. They knew another strike could come, but more than that, they waited to see if the galaxy had learned. On board the stealth ship Solace, Commander Neil Carter read the latest transmissions. More alien governments were sending new requests for peace, offers of tribute, and full surrender. Still, Earth said nothing. Lieutenant Nora Green sat beside him, listening to alien news channels. "They are crying now," she said. "They fear the sky." Carter nodded. "They should." But not everyone had given up. A small group of alien warlords tried to strike back. They sent a fleet of 30 ships toward the edge of the Sol system. They believed Earth would not see them, would not act. They were wrong. Before the fleet reached the first moon outpost, their ships began to vanish. One by one, without fire, without alarms, just gone. Swallowed by space, taken by weapons they could not understand. A single ship returned, burned and broken. The pilot spoke of shadows, of weapons that bent light, of sounds that made them go mad. He died 2 hours later, whispering Earth's message: "You rejected peace, now fear." Turned to silence. Entire star systems shut down their defense systems. Some deactivated their fleets and turned off their scanners. They hoped Earth would not notice them, would not strike again. In a quiet room on Earth, Clara Monroe marked another planet on the list, but then stopped. She turned to Chairman Gray. "They are breaking," she said. "The galaxy is falling without us firing again." Gray looked tired but calm. "Fear is a fire that burns without fuel," he said. "Let it burn." Operative Troy Maddox returned from his missions and walked through the empty halls of an old Earth embassy building. Dust covered the walls. Broken glass lay on the floor. He remembered the day they closed it. After the last peace envoy was killed by a crowd on an alien world, he touched the flag hanging in the corner. Faded but still whole. "We asked nicely," he said to himself. "Now they ask us, in deep space." The warden ship returned from its mission. Ava Daniel sat alone in her chair, her eyes watching stars go dark. She had ended a sun. She had done it not with hate, but with duty. She sent a message to Earth Command. Short and simple: "Zenthari is finished orders." No new orders came, just the voice of Earth playing through her speakers again. "You rejected peace," and in every dark corner of the galaxy, aliens listened with shaking hands. They remembered the humans who came with open hands, who offered trade, help, and friendship. They remembered how they laughed, how they mocked Earth, how they turned them away. Now they listened with fear. Because Earth had nothing more to say, only the message remained. No new threats, no long speeches. Just the same soft voice, repeated forever: "You rejected peace." The galaxy was quiet now, not because of peace, but because of fear. The stars still burned, but many planets no longer felt safe under them. Cities turned off their lights, fleets stopped flying. People spoke in whispers and feared the sky. No one attacked Earth again. No one sent threats. The Union had no council left, no gate to hold them together. Zenthari's sun was gone, and thousands of systems had cut their communications, hoping to hide. And through all of it, Earth said nothing. The same voice still played, unchanged and cold. You rejected peace. On Earth, the skies were calm. The oceans moved quietly. Cities were full of people who no longer cheered for victories. They simply worked, lived, and remembered. Chairman Louis Gray stood in the garden outside the council hall. His hands behind his back, he looked up at the stars. So far away, we did what we had to do, he said softly, beside him. Clara Monroe held a tablet showing the status of Earth's fleets. Ships still circled the system, cloaked, silent, ready. She looked at him and said, "They are waiting." "Let them wait," Gray replied. "Let them think, let them feel." What we felt, in the remains of the Galactic Union, small groups tried to rebuild. But nothing was the same. Without their strongest leaders, without their network, they were scattered and weak. Trust had broken, and fear had replaced it. On the alien world of Harness, a group of students found an old data cube in the ruins of a museum. They wiped the dust from it and turned it on. A human voice played through the speaker. "You rejected peace." The students froze. Some had never heard the message before. They had only heard stories from their elders, of ships that appeared from nowhere, of stars going dark. Now they heard the truth, and they sat in silence. One of them, a young girl, looked at the stars and whispered, "Maybe we should have listened." In deep space, the dreadnought Tempest slowly powered down. Captain Elijah Moore walked through the empty halls of the ship. He touched the wall panels like they were old friends. The ship had done its duty, and now it waited. He reached the command deck and looked at the Earth-shaped symbol carved into the metal. "You brought us here," he said, "and now we hold the line." At the same time, Ava Daniel sat aboard the Warden. Her ship was parked in a hidden dock inside a dead moon. Her mission was finished, but she did not leave. She listened to the silence of space and the echo of the message. She wondered how many more stars would die before the galaxy understood. On board the Solace, Commander Neil Carter finally received a message from Earth High Command. It was only a sentence: "Stand down, but stay ready." He showed it to his crew. No one said a word. They nodded and returned to their posts. The mission was not over. It had just entered a new phase. Back on Earth, people began to rebuild parts of history that had been hidden for years. Museums opened again, but this time they told the full truth about the peace missions, the silence, the pain, and the final message. Children were taught the names of the first peace envoys, the ones who died trying to make friends with the stars. Statues were raised in quiet parks not for war heroes, but for those who believed in hope. One boy stood before a statue of a woman who had died on an alien world. Her plaque read, "She offered peace and paid the price." The boy looked up at the stars and asked his mother, "Will they come back someday?" His mother hugged him and said, "Maybe, if they learn." On a small moon near the edge of known space, a group of aliens gathered around a fire. They were not leaders, not soldiers, just people. They had escaped the chaos of their cities. They looked at the stars with fear and regret. One old alien spoke to the group. "We were proud," he said. "We were blind." A child asked, "Do you think they will ever speak to us again?" The old alien shook his head. "Not until we listen." And so the galaxy waited. Earth had not destroyed them all. Earth had not taken every system. They had only sent a message, one made with fire, silence, and light. Now the stars remembered, and so did the people. The ships of Earth stayed in the dark, ready. The people of Earth remained silent, watching, hoping that one day, maybe, someone would truly hear what they Tried to say so long ago, and on one last abandoned station, drifting near the ruins of the Crimson Gate, a small screen flickered to life. A single message played through weak speakers. You rejected peace. This was your answer. Then the screen went dark.